Greetings to all in the love and light of the one infinite creator. My name is Jonathan Tong, and I am facilitator for the Seattle Law of One study group. We can be found on the L&L research page in the list of study groups found as seen on your screen. We can also be found on Facebook. Our group does meet on Zoom every Tuesday from 3:30 to 5 p.m. That's Pacific Standard Time. You don't have to live in Seattle to join our Zoom sessions or to join our Facebook group. Anybody who's available, anybody who's interested is welcome to join anytime. It's also a great way to get announcements for future Q&A sessions like the one we are doing today. Because today we are blessed to be joined again by Jim McCarty for some informal conversation about the law of one and how to live it on our daily basis. How are you doing today, Jim?
Doing well. It's kind of a chilly day here in Kentucky too, although yesterday we had a record high, 78, but we're down to 63 today.
Ah, good. Well, glad to hear things are well. And yes, I hear you had hip surgery recently. How's your recovery going? How are you feeling?
That's going very well. It was 2 weeks ago this coming Monday. And for the first 4 days, I used a walker. The next 4 days, I used a cane. And the last 4 days, I've been walking on my own. I'm able to go up and down stairs and doing exercises that the physical therapist gave me. So my hip's getting stronger. It's going very well. I'm very pleased. I'm so glad to have that done. I've been waiting for quite a while to get it done.
So happy to hear. Yeah, I know people who have had to have hip surgery before, and it must have been very, very painful up to that point. So glad that you are more mobile and such.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're back to doing some dancing? People might not realize that, yeah, you do, as I recall, enjoy dancing and vibing with some good tunes.
I do. I haven't done any dancing yet. I'm not sure that would be appropriate. I do what I call improvisational dance, where a lot of different steps are added in improvisationally, and it might be a little more than hip could take right now. Maybe after I start driving, then I'll start dancing.
Oh,
That'll
there
be
you go.
another week or so.
I love to dance too, and I don't do any formal movements. I just like putting on some good Latin music is kind of my recent favorite these days, and I just love vibing with it. It's got beautiful,
Oh,
positive.
you bet. Sure does.
May I ask, do you have any favorite genres of music or songs that you'd like to dance to?
Just about anything that's got a good beat and a rhythm. My recent favorite before I had the surgery was Led Zeppelin, their Stairway to Heaven.
Wow, that's awesome. That is so cool. That's so wonderful to hear. Yeah, big Zeppelin fan here too. Yeah, and I believe that song has been referenced a number of times in the raw material channeling sessions. I believe that has been used perhaps as a tuning song. Did you ever use that as
No,
a
I don't
tuning song?
don't think we've used it for tuning. It has a nice slow start to it, would be very inspirational, but it ends pretty quickly. Rock and rolls pretty rapidly.
And it is a long song too. I
Oh
was
yeah,
only asking because this is a question that I've been meaning to ask for a while. If I understand correctly, it's part of a regular practice for the channeling sessions that you do listen to some sort of song as a tuning song to get you kind of into the headspace.
yeah.
And I've seen a few songs referenced by title in channeling the sessions. And it seems to cover a pretty wide range. There's quite a few rock songs that I believe you have used.
Mhm. Yeah. Anything that is inspirational, discusses some sort of spiritual principle, and isn't too fast. And it's sort of like you're tuning your instrument, and you want to get into the flow. And that's the way we've done it for years and years.
I think some of us, like myself, might have guessed that you would use a very, very quiet, meditative, instrumental type song, but that's not necessarily the case, right? You have used pop songs or songs that get played on the radio on rock stations or something. Is that correct?
Sure, there's inspirational songs all over the place. All different kinds of music have inspirational songs. So we try to pick what feels best for the moment. I guess my all-time favorite is Lacey J. Dalton's "The Wanderer" song. And
Yes.
she has
Yeah.
a number of songs on her album that were pretty good for tuning.
Yes. Yeah, beautiful song. I've heard that. I think Morris mentioned it to our group a few times. I was going to ask, do you have any favorite tuning songs, perhaps in addition to that? Or are there any songs that you use more than once or twice, like
Uh,
repeater songs?
there's some songs from Arlo Guthrie back in 1996 that I was not aware of the metaphysical nature of those songs until I really listened to them. And yeah, he really surprised me. He was following a guru at that time, and she was directing him in various efforts of service to others. And he wrote about some of her interactions with him, and they were really inspirational.
Oh, that's fascinating. I had no idea. You're not talking about Alice's Restaurant by any chance, are you?
No, no, that came I don't know before that I believe.
Yeah, that would be a really long tuning song to use, I think. Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I had one other question that I wanted to ask before we go to the group questions. I've been reading your Camelot journal as always, and sure do appreciate and love the entries that you've had in the last couple of weeks, where you've given us some peeks into your upcoming book on living the law of 102, the outer work. I believe you are on chapter 5 now, and a lot of fascinating passages in there. Um, and I was just, and I appreciate the passages both from raw channeling sessions as well as quotes. A beautiful blend of love and wisdom. And I was just curious, how many chapters are in the book as planned? Can you give us a rough outline of the chapters, topics?
Yeah, there are 8 chapters, and there was a preface and an introduction, so 10 total sections.
And it seems like the chapters that we've seen so far are looking at the lower energy ray centers, the red, orange, and it seems like you're kind of on the yellow energy ray center now, it would
Right.
appear.
Yeah, dealing with the workplace and with our environment that we live in and on the planet and so forth. Yeah.
Great applications, so many different ways for sure. And I know, yeah, most recently or fairly recently, there was a chapter where you were talking about artists. And art, there was a passage from Quo where they talked about how artists, by the nature of their creative work, are able to open their green energy ray center for love and their blue ray center for communication and their violet ray center and indigo ray to tap into intelligent affinity to help in the creative process. Um, did you have any thoughts, reflections on that you might wish to share with folks who haven't read about that yet?
Well, it seems like artists are a special sort of person. And I think art can be in just about any field you want to think of, not just painting or sculpting or music or dancing, but it could be in your gardening, it could be in cooking, whatever. When you come up with something that is unique to you, that you start off in a certain area that expands outward and inward so that you include more than you thought you would to start with. It seems like that is a process of making contact with your inner being, maybe even with the creator, with your higher self, with other inspirational entities that are attracted to you because of the kind of work you're doing in art. And I think that that's something that everybody can be a part of because, we all have that creative instinct. We have the creator in us, and the creator is always making something new. Uh, Everything that we do each day, if you look at it, it's unique compared to what we've done before. We build a creation of our own making, step by step, day by day, moment by moment. So I think that's basically the creative impulse that Chloe was talking about, and it expanded my thinking on how art is done, what art is, who can do it.
For sure. Yeah. And I know you mentioned you have fairly high affection for Bob Marley. That's something that our listeners or viewers might not be aware of.
Can you
Do you
see?
think Bob Marley would be an artist who fits? Oh, you're wearing your Bob Marley shirt today. Oh, that's awesome. Much appreciate the synchronicity on that one. Yeah. Would you say Bob Marley would be a good example of an artist who was able to tap into intelligent infinity in
Oh
his?
yeah, definitely. His reggae music was based, I think, in the culture in which he was raised, and which had a firm grasp on the nature of reality for human beings, and who could do what they wanted to do. Stand up for your rights and live your life, be who you are.
Indeed. Yeah, what a beautiful, luminous soul. Huge fan of his music as well. Gosh, we could just go on talking about this for another hour, but I do see quite a few questions in the chat window, and I would love to give other folks an opportunity to ask you some questions. Aram, I see that you have a question for Jim. Would you like to unmute your mic and ask?
Yeah, hi, Jim. My question is, have you ever had any experience with a psychic reading from a negative entity? And also, if you have, could you talk about that? And then also, what do you do specifically to protect yourself during meditation and or channeling?
Well, yes, during the raw contact, psychic readings were just a part of the process, because negatively oriented entities are attracted to the light that you create when you are working in the area of channeling, or in anything that produces the ability of people to expand their consciousness and to grow from that. That is a power that negative entities very much would like to have. They would like to take it from you if they could. But there is a kind of a qualification. You have to play some part in that psychic greeting by either making statements or behaviors or thoughts that are away from that light you're creating, if they are not in harmony with it. If you create something that's disharmonious, and even for Carla, pre-incarnated choices were not disharmonious, but they were something that psychic readings could be used to emphasize her arthritis and the pain of arthritis, for example. Now, one time that I know very well and remember, where I created an opening that could be intensified, was during the raw contact. And Don was talking about wanting to put all three books at that time that we had into one book. We had self-published. And I said, well, Don, that's a great idea, but we don't have enough money to do that. And he persisted in wanting to do that. And so I got angry. And the way I expressed my anger and disharmonious feelings at that moment was that somebody had just knocked at the door. And we had a couch that separated our large living room into a smaller area that could be used for meditation. So I ran over and hurdled the couch. And that was my expression of anger, and I let the person in the door. And though that wasn't something that was, obviously pointed at Don, it was intended toward Don. So that night, a negatively oriented entity directed a common wood spider to bite me on my elbow and my bicep, 2 places. That was intensified by our negative entity to be the quality of a cottonmouth or a water moccasin snake, the poisonous type. So in that way, then I needed to try to make harmony out of it. So I needed to go through a balancing process where I looked at the anger that I expressed, and I looked at the psychic greeting as it had been given to me. And I sent love and light to the negative entity, and love and light to the sending, which was for me to be hurdling that couch and expressing anger in that way. And then love and light to myself and the creator in all things. That was a technique that Ross suggested for anyone who suffers any type of a psychic greeting, because what you're doing there is taking responsibility for what you did and accepting yourself for doing it, and then finding the opposite, which would be love and acceptance in this case. Love and acceptance of Don, love and acceptance of me, and love and acceptance of a negative entity. So that was the way that I handled that. And was a suggestion Ra made for any type of psychic reading that anyone might undergo. And as far as, I believe you asked also about challenging or channeling. The way that Carla discovered was the most effective for anyone who serves as a channel for especially extraterrestrial entities or the Confederation of Planets in the service of the infinite creator is a process, and it takes a while to do this. The process is to discover what the heart of your spiritual journey is. What is it that you value the most? What is it that you love? What is it that you would die for if necessary? And then you challenge any entity that wishes to speak through you every time you channel in that quality. Now, for Carla, it was Jesus Christ. And for a number of years, for me, it was Christ consciousness. But now, after Carla's passing, I've also had my experience with Jesus. So I challenge in the name of Jesus Christ too. I say, do you come in the name of Jesus Christ? And you say that Jesus Christ is Lord. And I do that 3 times. And again, that was Carla's suggestion. Do it 3 times just to be sure. And in that way, so whatever quality you choose, whether it's Jesus or Buddha or Latwii or whatever saint or mystical quality has meaning for you, you use that and you challenge in that name. And that would be my recommendation.
Thank you, Jim. Aram, did you have any follow-up questions to any of that?
I do, but I'll let other people go.
If it's on this topic, I would say go for it.
No, it's a
have time, we'll make time.
topic altogether, so I can wait.
That's good. Thank you. Feel free to put them in the chat window if you wish. Josh, I saw you had a question you wanted to ask. Would you like to unmute your mic and ask?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Jim, for the opportunity, and Jonathan for facilitating. Quick question for Jim. Do you have a favorite individual Confederation member that's not including Quo? One that you enjoy or resonate with the most? And what about them do you like or enjoy the most?
Well, before the raw contact, Carla was channeling a group mind called Latwii, and they were of the 5th density of wisdom. And I especially enjoyed Latwii because they seemed to have a really good sense of humor. I'm not sure, I think it probably comes with the wisdom density because they've already been through that love and understanding of the 4th density. They see the value of the love. And then the wisdom, I think, is to keep the light touch. That we go through our lives realizing that our spiritual journeys are not always easy. Sometimes they're rough spots and we have to deal with those. And yet, if we can keep that light touch that Latwii had such a way of doing, that seems to me to be a really effective way of accepting yourself and accepting the journey that you're on and making it with maybe like a dancer's point of view, just dancing your way through, because that's one term that Ra used a lot throughout the raw contact is the dance. And the dance, I think, is our progression through the densities. And if we can do it with a sense of humor, you know, I think the creator's got a great sense of humor, and we all have the creator within us. And if we can express some of that humor, it would be a very helpful thing on our journeys. Because sometimes if we take things too hard or seriously and are kind of beaten down by them, then we stand in our own way. We're tripping, falling down, you know. So I like Latwii. That's one of my favorites.
Thank you very much. Really like that answer. And one quick follow-up, I guess, just for fun. Okay. Have you or would you ever do a channeling with Latwii and ask them to share just comedy?
Well, you know, I would seriously consider that. I think, though, that we would probably have to put it into a context. We would have to give some illustration from our life pattern or what's going on in our lives and ask Latwii, now, what is the purpose of this and how can we better understand it by any kind of humor that you could offer? You know, is there something funny about this that would be helpful? You know, anyway, that's a possibility.
Awesome.
That's a great question, Josh. Thank you. Did you have any follow-ups to that?
No, just thank you and looking forward to reading that one.
I do remember a session with Latwii where they talked about different examples of humor at all the different energy ray centers. They gave examples of energy humor at red ray, orange ray, yellow ray, and so on. And yeah, it would be delightful to ask for their examples of humor, like maybe Hatan's idea of humor and Latwii's and Ra's. That would be delightful. We will have to craft a question to submit for consideration. Thank you for asking that, Josh. I saw that Rael had a perhaps follow-up question to something that was asked earlier. Would you like to unmute your mic and ask Rael?
Yeah, well, it's not a question, but I just want to tell you, Jim, in my eyes, you are bigger than, and I know you're not looking for this either, but in my eyes, you're bigger than Bob Marley, Michael Jackson, Elvis, and all of them. Because the impact that your service to others did, it just like eased my heart as a truth seeker. And I want to tell you, like, really, I did. Even when I was in hard situations, like when I was in jail, I wrote a book, and it contained a lot of the law of one in it. I even put you in it, actually. I even put you in it, but when it was printed out, I had to change the name because I didn't ask you. I couldn't get a hold of you, but I changed it. And but even when it was printed, it had some misprints, and it still had your name in it. Like look, hold on 1 second. Look, see that?
Nice.
Jim.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm very.
You know, Elon, I get that from Ra also. He said that's another name for the vital energy. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Well, I'm very honored.
I just want to tell you that. Thank you for so much.
Thank you so much. I am very honored by your book and your appreciation, and keep up the great work you're doing. I can feel it.
Thank you. I feel your energy too. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. That's wonderful. I see Reina is next up, and if I'm mispronouncing your name, please be sure to correct me. Reina, I see you had quite a few questions to ask and would love to be able to get to all of them. How about if we start with your first question, and we will come back to you for more after we're able to go through the cycle of other questions.
No, it's fine. Thank you. Yeah, my question was, Jim, I know that you and Carl and Don were asking Ra a lot of questions about intelligent energy, intelligent infinity, and I wanted to know if you yourself have tapped into it consciously, and if so, what is your routine? Do you practice? Is it like an hour a week or one time a month? That was pretty much my question.
Well, I think that I have done that through meditation. My meditative practice is something that I am utilizing in order to do, as Ross suggested, to listen to the Creator. And when you are listening to the Creator meditation, which is what anybody can do, you're actually contacting intelligent infinity, because that is just the way it is. The Creator made everything that we've got. The Creator is intelligent infinity. And we can also access intelligent energy, which at the brow, the third eye, and the violet ray is the intelligent infinity. So in your meditative practice, you can listen. Maybe you ask a question before you start the meditation. And maybe like, what is God? What is the creation? What is my part in it? Or who am I? Or any question that has an overview that would have meaning to you to have answered, then go into your meditation. And after asking that question, meditate on that single point, so that hopefully in some fashion you will feel or hear or experience a response. Now, as Carla said, sometimes the Creator responds to us in our questions in thoughts that are too deep for words, because words can only describe a certain amount of information. Words are a way of beginning to grasp the nature of reality. So you might feel or hear in that meditation would be this thing that would be of value to you. And so when you would come out of the meditation, then think on your feelings, if there was any direction given, any images, anything that was unusual from your usual meditations. So that would be my suggestion for anybody.
You
Did you
know,
have any?
I think I may have not asked it like I've experienced that with the meditation that you're talking about, you know, like listening to the answer. I guess what I meant to ask was he was talking more about the use of it for healing, for teaching, even metal bending. Have you tapped into it in that way? That's what I guess I meant to ask. Like, have you used it for some of the powerful things that it is able to allow?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay. And is that something that you want to do or you have no interest?
My preference at this particular time, and it could change, is I would like to continue doing what I'm doing, because what I'm doing came from inner direction, that this would be the most helpful thing for me to do at this time. And I think that, you know, everything changes as you go along your path, your spiritual journey. Every step you take builds upon the others. So that, yeah, like I say, it could change in the future.
That's a great question, Rena. Thank you. Did you have any follow-ups to that? Are we good?
No, that was perfect. Thank you so much.
It's a great question. Thank you. I see Daniel has a question about challenging that you may or may not have answered already. Daniel, would you like to unmute your mic and ask a follow-up on that, if you still have one?
Sure. Yeah, in fact, you largely spoke to that. I found that actually a really valuable answer, that it sounds like it's of benefit to us to be challenged because we have to search for what the core of our truth is. So I'm wondering, though, in this plane, when you're negotiating with other humans, someone can falsify. And what spiritual principle is it that a challenge is going to actually work infallibly if we do it well? What is it that requires another entity to honor that? Whereas maybe on this, human experience, people can bluff their way through it, or, lie, or other things like that.
I believe that the quality that is effective in the challenging process is effective because it is a quality that you have chosen. And by your choice of this quality, you have given it the totality of your beingness. And that beingness creates a link with the creator, with intelligent infinity. So that when you offer the challenge, it is just as though that quality is right beside you, so that whatever entity would wish to speak through you would not dare lie, because you cannot lie to these qualities that are made of the creator and by the creator, and that you have accepted and given your own nature to. You have made it a magical principle that can change consciousness. And this is something that has a value and a power that no other entity can overcome. No negative entity can overcome. They have to acknowledge it.
Sounds really valuable to be challenged as far as for personal growth goes.
I think so.
That's a great question, Daniel. Thank you for asking. Did you have any follow-ups to that?
Nope, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, I appreciate your asking and appreciate the answer again, Jim. I know we've talked about this a few times before, and maybe perhaps if I could get some clarification on this particular point. Am I understanding correctly that what you're suggesting is that when Carla, for example, would challenge in the name of Jesus, the basis of the effectiveness of the challenge was not necessarily that Jesus himself was present, but that it was because of the depth of the commitment that Carla had and devotion to Jesus, that she was at a vibrational state of pure love and devotion for Jesus, that a negative entity just wouldn't be able to coexist with that vibration? Would
I
that
believe
be
both
fair to say?
both of those things, that Jesus was there and that Carla had devoted herself to that quality that Jesus was. Those, I believe, are both true. And those are why the challenge works.
Yeah, because I remember there was some passage, perhaps from Quo, that I read quite a while ago, where they were suggesting that they meet each person wherever they are with whatever they are most devoted to, and that if Carla, for example, or anyone felt that same level of devotion for their bedpost, then they would speak to that person through their bedpost. So I guess that's kind of what I was suggesting or intimating with my question. Is it possible that if for some reason somebody felt that same level of devotion to their bedpost, that it would still be equally effective as a challenge?
Well, I cannot say that definitively in the affirmative, but I can say that it's a synchronicity that you chose something that Carla told her mother to do. And her mother didn't quite understand what she was doing in her challenging and channeling, and wanted to know how she could reach a higher power. And she really didn't have any way in her own knowledge and experience of doing that. So Carla said, well, if you're in bed at night, talk to your bedpost and see the creator there, because the creator is everywhere. So her mom did, and she got a response that she thought was very valuable. I don't know what it was, I don't remember, but so yeah, I think that can work.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I see, going back to the chat window, Shervin had a question. Shervin, would you like to unmute your mic and ask?
Yes, hello. I have a really quick question. Guys hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. Does only the red ray energy center reflect our sexuality, or does the orange ray as well? And if so, what is the difference? Thank you.
Well, yes, thank you for your question too. In the most general sense, the red ray is associated with our sexuality and our survival. But we can go up the energy centers and use that quality of sexuality and survival in different ways. The orange ray is what is most noted for our personal idiosyncrasies or eccentricities, the way we express one quality or another, including our sexuality. So it could be seen as a refinement of the basic nature of survival and sexual reproduction. And if you kept going up to group energies, you could see in a group if there was some quality of the sexual reproduction that would aid a group effort. Then that also could be seen as a way that groups could interpret and utilize sexual energy transfers. I would say in the raw contact, Carla and I used the sexual energy transfer in the orange ray to dedicate it to the service of the one infinite creator. And that was a way of energizing her physical vehicle so it had more vital energy for Ra to use during the Ra sessions. And that caused the sessions to be longer when we used that and dedicated it to the service of the creator. And I think that that quality of sexual expression or your sexual nature can continue to go through the various energy centers, and you can interpret them or equate them in higher and higher levels of your own nature. And that would be according to your own preferences.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your question.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question, Shervin. That's something I've actually wondered about quite a few times myself and never got around to asking. Did you have any follow-up questions on that?
Not currently, no.
Well, thank you. I see DeMarcus has a question he's been waiting to ask. DeMarcus, would you like to unmute your mic and ask?
Yes, hey Jim, huge fan. Thank you for all that you've done. My question is kind of two-part. Would you consider the logos to be the manifest mind of intelligent infinity? And also, is the nature of intelligent infinity itself unconditional love, or is unconditional love more of a characteristic of the logos, which I understand to be consciousness utilizing love in order to create?
I do believe that the logos is the manifestation of the love that the creator uses to create the creation, that the creator wanted to know itself. So this desire to know itself then created what we see as the primal logos. And the primal logos then creates the various other logoi, such as the logos that created the Milky Way galaxy that we live in. And each logos has that quality of the creative power of the creator in love, so that when the creator focuses its desire to know itself through each logos, especially the primal logos, that then what is occurring or produced is what we call light. So that all of the material universe is light. And it is light because the photon that is the product of, or the personification, or the most individualized quality of light, vibrates at various speeds of rotation and various angles of rotation to create what we see as physical matter. Everything that we think that is solid here in the third density illusion, our scientists will tell you, as a matter of fact, that it's considered that all of these things, this matter, are vibrations of photons, and that there is no real solidity to anything that we think is physical matter. It's all vibrations of photons. So I think that that's basically the way it works. Was there another aspect to your question that I missed here?
Is the nature of intelligent, oh, I'm sorry, would you consider the logos the manifest mind of the creator?
Yes.
Thank you.
And it manifests in the way I would describe by the photon and creating matter.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a great question, DeMarcus. Thank you. No follow-ups on that?
No.
I would encourage anyone who's asking questions, if you have any follow-up questions on that same topic, feel free to go ahead and ask. I think these are all wonderful questions. I saw Curtis threw his hands up real quick. Curtis, did you have a follow-up question on this topic?
Yes. So on the photons creating matter, I thought about that. Is that the focus of love?
Yes. The way that it seems to work is that the quality of love, that is the power of the creator to create what we see as the universe, then becomes manifested as light when its desire to know itself is focused through the love. Then that which is produced is the light, the photons, creating what we see as physical matter.
Great. I've been seeing that in my meditations, and light, love, truth, and then I am. So I kind of understand it that way. Thank you very much.
I think you've got it. Thank you.
That's beautiful, Curtis. Thank you. I see that Lynn, I believe, has a question. Lynn, would you like to unmute your mic and ask?
Hi, Jonathan and Jim, thank you so much for this time slot to enable us from Europe to join this Q&A session. Thank you so much for that. And I would like to ask something. Is this also mentioned, for example, in session 80, about negative fifth density was attempting to overtake or say possess the soul of color, so that to increase his spiritual power. There are more beneficial advantage for this fifth density mentioned in that session. In case of this negative fifth density could overtake the color into another negative spiritual path. My question is that could be happen in our world, in our normal life? If there's a certain entity does on the earth, maybe like one wonder, does carry such huge brilliant light in her or in his being, and has thusly attached some negative beings, which is also successful, maybe already taken control of such beings in our normal life. Indeed, I suspect one my good friends is in that case. So my question is there idea or thoughts how to help such people besides to practicing the method in terms of embracing the negativity with love and light? Is there some other advices?
Well, first of all, I think that the raw contact was rather unusual in the fact that we attracted a negative fifth density entity that decided that since its fourth density minions had not been able to cause us to move away from our desire to serve others, and they were not successful in stopping the raw contact, so that the fifth density entity did something that was very, very unusual. And that was to attempt to put an end to the contact itself through what you said, taking Carla's mind, body, spirit complex and depositing it in negative time space. Most entities in the past, as Ra said, have not been able to withstand most of the challenges of fourth density minions and have had their channels polluted by negative information. As the negative entity takes over the channel, begins to channel what seems to be positive information, and then turns the corner at some point to lead you down a negative path. Most groups are not able to maintain that purity. And I think that if an entity or a group is able to maintain that purity, then you have the ability to create what you might say magical circumstance by using various rituals, such as the Banishing Ritual of a Lesser Pentagram, to protect your place of working and to purify it, and then maybe be able to utilize it also in the working itself, so that you use your own ability to challenge entities in the manner that I spoke previously, so that there is no chance that an entity of a negative nature could begin to speak through you or utilize you in any way. The basic quality here is that you have the ability to create a purified and spiritually effective situation that would not allow such negative entities to have access to you or your group. And that is something that you can utilize in a way that keeps your positive energies flowing in a positive manner, and you do not create any chinks in your armor by standing outside the light that you create. In other words, staying in harmony with the light that you are creating and the people with whom you work. So that would be my suggestion. Do you have another question?
Thanks very much. Yeah, I need to ponder about that. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your question.
Thank you for joining us, Lynn, and thank you for your question. And you reminded me, I forgot that we did actually add Saturday Zoom meetings for the Seattle Law of One group, specifically for folks who live in European time zones. We do meet from 7:30 to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is more convenient time for folks in European time zones. And you can find that on our Facebook page. I believe Linda had a question she's been waiting to ask. Linda, would you like to unmute your mic and ask?
Jim, how you doing? Glad to see you this morning. My question, Morris and I were watching a program the other night that talked about praying for the dead. and the benefits and whether that was efficacious for their souls in growth. I was wondering if you have some sort of program perhaps that you might be doing on a daily basis that involves that, and if so, what would that be?
Actually, Linda, I don't. I think that that's probably something that would be very helpful. I think, though, that when people who pass through the door of death drop their bodies and go on, I think they have such a gathering of friends and spiritual guides and entities that have been part of their spiritual journey on the unseen realms, that they are in a position where they have all the help they need. Now, if there is something that is unusual about their death process, they were murdered or something, they died quickly and didn't have any idea what happened to them, or even someone who commits suicide, I think there it would be helpful to do something like you're mentioning. But as for my own personal practice, I don't have anything like that. And all I could really suggest in that case is to send love and light to image it going to them, and continue to do that periodically throughout your days until you feel that there has been a contact made and protection provided.
So in other words, the Catholic dogma of doing it for 1 year after the passing to you holds no water.
In general, I'd say no. I think that would be a very specific situation. I don't think most people need that type of protection. I think everybody, just about everybody, has got all the protection they need, just as a natural part of the process of dropping the body and going forward. You know, there are so many angels and guides and Confederation entities there that are with you as you walk that step of light, and that light is very protective.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Well, thank you, Linda. It's good to see you. And Morris.
Great question as always. Thank you, Linda. In as far as I can tell from looking at the chat window, everyone who had questions to ask has been able to ask at least once. If I missed somebody, please retype your question in the chat window. Otherwise, I did see that Raina had a number of other questions to ask, as did Josh. So I would love to give them a chance to ask some other questions as well. Raina, is there another one of your questions that you would like to ask at this time?
Yay, thank you so much. Yeah, I was waiting. My second question was about balancing. So one of the things that I've really been trying to get an answer to is, can I have too much joy? The only reason this comes up is because during the channeling session with Quo, Quo stated that you must find the antithesis of the opposite. So where there is patience, where there's impatience, find patience. But he also said, even where there is great joy, along with the other ones, fear, anger. So my question is, I need to find the antithesis of great joy. So when I'm experiencing great joy, I need to embrace great sadness too. So it's possible to have too much joy because we need to be balanced. We can't be too happy. That was it.
That's a good question, Raina. What we're trying to do in the balancing process is to become the creator. The creator is all things. Every entity in the creation gives the creator more ways to know itself, which is the very reason for the creation. So we need to have all of those qualities within ourselves because we consciously accept them as being part of ourselves. Joy is certainly part of ourselves. That's an easy part to accept. Maybe the great sadness is not so easy to accept, but the creator has all of that as well. In a lot of people around the world, there's a lot of sadness in the world. So in order for us to become a 360-degree being with all of the qualities, the positive and the negative, happy and the sad, the good and the bad, we need to be able to accept ourselves in that way. So we do need to balance everything so that the basic quality that comes out of it is that we are the creator, we are love. So Ra gave a simple little equation, said, know yourself through all of these qualities, accept yourself, become the creator. So that's the process of the balancing, and that's what we're all trying to do. And we are each other's other self. We are all one. So yeah, joy has got to be balanced with sadness.
No,
'cause
and
it's
so
a
I
part-
understand that. So then when I have great joy, because one of the things was mentioned that at the end of the day, reflect on things that may have thrown you off balance, even great joy. So then I was thinking great joy threw me off balance. So then that means that at home, what caused me great joy, then I need to think about something that causes me great sadness, so, and really exaggerate it so that I can be balanced.
Yes, the quality that is you're being thrown off of is love. Love is an acceptance of all things. Love accepts yourself and everyone else around it because love sees the creator everywhere. So this love that is your heart of your being is thrown off by joy. Because if you think that only joy is necessary, then you're missing part of what love is, part of what the creator is, and part of what you need to be and to accept yourself as in order to become the creator.
Wow. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Irina. Not an easy question, I know, and especially the answer.
It's a great question, though. I really appreciate your asking that, Rena. Daniel, I see you also have a question.
Yes, thank you. Can you? I'm Daniel from Berlin, and I would like to ask a private question. I had during the meditation 2-3 times in the past. I had that I feel like during the meditation some pressure and some heat coming up in the forehead. So I would like to ask Jim if you had anything similar in the past, or if you make some advices what it could be the reason or what is the purpose of that one.
Well, it sounds like you're activating your indigo ray or your third eye. And that is a part of the process of going through all of the energy centers and activating them so that the intelligent energy or the prana, or the one infinite creator that enters through your feet and your red ray energy center and begins to move up then through the orange, the yellow, the green, the blue, and gets then to the indigo and the violet, so that eventually you also can experience an activation of the violet ray and make contact with intelligent infinity. This is usually a lifelong process. So I'd say that you probably are well on your way now. And basically what I would recommend is you just keep up with your meditative process and see what develops. This is one of those steps, a very important step along the way.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your question.
Indeed. Rael, did you have a question to ask?
Yes, sir. Hey Jim, I was wondering if there was any way I could is there any way I could work with you? Maybe I could contact you after this and maybe, because I just want to have a pure source. Like you was the purest source to Ra. You was the closest thing to Ra. I want to work with you, Is there any way I could maybe contact you after this and work with you?
The email for contacting me is contact@llresearch.org.
Okay, great.
I
Thank you.
just put that email address in the chat window there if you want to check it out. And for anyone who would like to get in touch with Jim, it is thankfully another great service to others that he offers in responding to the many emails that people send him, and that contact address is probably the best way to do that. And thank you for the question. Thank you for the energy. Andy, did you have a question that you wanted to ask? Would you like to unmute your mic and ask?
Yes, I just wanted to know, like, in my meditation practice years ago, I had this experience of connecting to this silence that was like the universe. I call it the God particle because it was so small. I mean, it was like a pinprick. It was that small, and it felt like it came from my heart chakra, really deep in there. But it was such a powerful experience, and I've never been back there since. But I've had glimpses of it, and and I feel like since then I've just been trying to connect with that deep silence. Can you sort of explain what that deep silence is, and how can I have a closer connection to it, please?
Well, it would be my opinion, I could be wrong, that that silence is the creator, that you have accessed a portion of the creator within your own being that has given you this feeling of the powerful silence that you would like to reproduce. I think that maybe it could also be a portion of an initiation process that you're going through so that you might be able to access this, either this in the future or something that would be an acceleration of it. So I would just suggest you keep doing what you're doing. It got you there. I think it'll get you where you need to go.
Yeah, I just find like since then I kind of don't want anything else. It's the only thing I want now, and it's the only thing I want to get to, and everything else is almost irrelevant, you know, like whether it's service to self or that's all just noise, and all I want is that silence. And I think I was telling Jonathan a few weeks ago, or a few days ago, that, you know, I'm lucky if I get like a nanosecond or 2 nanoseconds of a glimpse of it in one day of like meditating. Shush, Bubbles. Sorry, dog.
Maybe the dog has a question too. Yeah. Jim, did you have anything you wanted to reply at this point?
No, I just suggested she keep on doing what she's doing. She's obviously doing something that's working.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. That's a cute little dog you got there.
Hey, nice. Did want to note that we are approaching the end of our hour, and I know Josh had some questions. I know Raina had some more questions. I know DeMarcus had another question he wanted to ask. If you're not able to ask your questions in this session, I would encourage you to write them down and remember, and we will probably be back at the end of next month to do this again. Josh, was there another question you wanted to ask?
I would like to let anyone who hasn't asked a question go before me, if one of those names you named hasn't gone.
As far as I can tell, everyone who had a question has been able to ask one.
Okay.
If
So
I'm wrong on that, let me know in the chat window, because I'm doing my best to keep an eye both on the chat window and the conversation that's going. But Josh, I think you're good to go. Why don't you go ahead and ask another question?
Thank you. Yeah, real quick, Jim, do you ask Quo to join you in meditation, as you know the Confederation members often offer you to do? If so, do you only ask 1 or 2 members to join, or ask the entirety of the Confederation? And do you notice or feel any difference when asking or not asking for them to join your meditation?
I do not ask the members of the Confederation to join me, even though they have always said that they would be glad to do that. My current practice is one thing of meditation that's been going on now for about 6 or so years. And what I'm seeking there is to become more aware of the Creator in a basic sense, I guess you would say, just the feeling of the presence.
Thank you. I understand.
Thank you.
Great question. Yeah, I appreciate that. DeMarcus, did you have another question to ask?
Yes, just a really quick one. So in a Quo channeling, Saturn was listed as one of the planets in our solar system as hosting 3rd density life. I know that's not covered in the raw material, other than Saturn having a huge affinity for the Creator and thus being dwelled by the Council. So have you received any further intel from the Confederation on if Saturn progressed through the densities and hosted 3rd density life?
No, we have not. I have not, actually, I have not aware of that channeling. So I wasn't aware the quote said that.
Yes, let me find it really quick.
Yeah, that is news to me too, but I am curious about that. Feel free to post the link to it either in our chat window or in our Facebook page if you'd like to mark us. And yeah, I would love to see that. That's news to me.
Thank you.
Raina, I think we have time for you to ask another question if you would like to ask another of your questions.
I would. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. The banishing ritual. I know that it's something that you all practice before each session. What is the purpose of it? I guess I still don't know. And also, it's only one of me. So I know it's effective with more people. Is it dangerous to do by myself, or should I wait for other people? And I guess my concern is just me. So one time during the ritual, I think one of you all had to hold her hand or something so she wouldn't be attacked because of what she was trying to do. What is the purpose of the ritual, I guess?
The purpose of the banishing ritual of lesser pentagram is to protect and purify the place of working where you're going to be doing your channeling. And that basically provides a wall of light around the room and within the room so that only positively oriented entities may enter it. As far as being able to do it yourself safely, there is one point in the raw contact where they say that magical rituals should not be performed individually. And then they say for obvious reasons. And the obvious reason I understood was that if you do it just individually, then it would be for your benefit, which would be self-serving and the equivalent of black magic. So there's another place where Ra says that that is not the case. There's a couple places in the raw contact where they contradict themselves. So where they say that it is possible to do it, I thought, well, just to be safe, I'm going to do a little preamble. And my preamble is, I seek now to perform the banishing ritual of a lesser pentagram in this place, to provide protection for this place, so that only positive oriented entities may enter the circle of seeking. No negative oriented entities may enter our circle of seeking. I seek no power or personal gain of any kind whatsoever for myself in the performance of this ritual. So that's my caution because it wasn't clear. And just in case you shouldn't do that for that reason, then I have my preamble.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What a great question, Raina. Thank you. And Jim, I have a couple follow-up questions on that. Do you think part of the reason why, well, first of all, that's one of the few, if only, places I can think of where Ra or anyone in the Confederation has actually contradicted themselves in 1,600 plus sessions. That's amazing. Is it possible, do you think, that one of their reasons for cautioning against performing those rituals individually is the same reason they would advise not channeling in private individually, because there's more protection in a group of being able to keep each other safe and accountable and protected?
Yeah, that's definitely it. Carla always said that we need at least 3 people to channel. That provides protection for the person serving as channel. It also allows for more universality of information to be transmitted through the channel. So that 3 seems to be a magical number that way.
Indeed, I believe Tesla said something about the power of 3s too. I had another question about the banishing ritual. I know you have discussed using it to protect the particular space where you're working in terms of a particular room. Is it possible that one could use the intent to purify like an entire house, like beyond just the immediate room that you're in?
There definitely is a possibility of doing that. However, what Ross suggested was not a banishing ritual for that type of protection. They suggested in session 95 that if we're moving into a new house, that we salt all of the windows and doors and sprinkle blessed water on that and say certain words of protection so that the entire house would be protected.
Indeed. Yeah. But do you think it would be fair to say if one performed the banishing ritual with the intent that it includes the whole house as opposed to just the room one is in, that it could conceivably work in that way?
I think it could.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the clarifications on that. I know we've talked about it at least a couple of times in previous sessions. And I guess the same way as you've discovered in channeling sessions, you can ask the same question repeatedly, but you get different questions at different times and sheds new light on the same question. So I thank you very much for doing that. As I'm looking at the clock, I am seeing that we are more or less at the end of our hour. I did want to ask if anyone sitting in on the session right now has a really burning question that they would really like to ask this session as opposed to waiting for future sessions. Raise your hand or something so I can see. Otherwise, I think we will bring this session to a close. Or let me know in the chat window, and I'm not necessarily seeing. I really wanted to thank everyone for bringing your really wonderful questions this session. I have certainly learned a lot from it and appreciate the love and care which goes into that. Jim, was there anything you wanted to say? Any thoughts you wanted to offer in closing before we part ways for this time?
Well, I want to thank everybody for attending this session and asking really great questions. I mean, you've helped me think a lot about what the answer should be and try to make a contact within as to what the answer might be most helpful. And this is a kind of a journey that we all share together. Right now, I'm the focus of this particular session, but anybody could be here where I'm sitting, and we could all learn a great deal, I'm sure. So thank you all for what you offered in the way of questions, and I love you all. I hope that we shall meet again.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jim, for all you do in service to others, all you continue to do. Thank you to all our friends at L&L Research for all they have done and continue to do in service to others. Thank you for all for joining us on this Zoom call, and thank you for all who are watching this on YouTube at some other place and time. Blessings to all, and look forward to seeing you next time in the love and light of the one infinite creator. Adonai. Namaste.